what inspired you to work in this field of heritage?
For me, I think it's ethics. I think there is an aspect of responsible environments, or being responsible in environments, and identifying that certain things have value, that there's a placeness about areas that needs to be preserved, that has meaning, that has, whether it be historical, aesthetic, it has significance, and we as heritage practitioners are in the service of conserving that significance. So for me, it's an ethical thing.
Louise?
I nearly became an archaeologist, and I've always loved history, and my parents went to lots and lots of historic houses when I was growing up in England, and I enjoyed traipsing around them because I'm an unusual child. And I remember one day when I was about 18, I saw a house that I really loved being demolished, and it was made into a housing estate, and a sign went up that said, "Another fine development by Crest." And I thought I couldn't be outraged by the outcome if I wasn't involved in the process. So it's, basically, that's it.
Great. Steph?
I've always loved history, and I too had the English upbringing with the Sunday afternoon walk around the local stately home. Went and did a museum studies course at Macquarie and heard Paul speaking at the Heritage Careers Fair a couple of years ago now, and thought I could do that. So I plucked up courage to go and speak to him afterwards.
Okay.
And the rest is history.
Yeah. Yeah. Martina?
I studied archaeology, and there's different aspects to archaeology, like sculpture and ceramics and architecture, and I just really got drawn into the architectural side of things, and I'm just really interested in how technology changes and how aesthetics change.
Thanks. Suzanne?
Well, I've worked as an architect for a number of years, and I think I just really became bored with the wholesale demolition of places without any, without taking a look at what you had and seeing how you could work with it.
I came from a more architectural background and worked in straight architectural practices, which built big metal sheds, which I found incredibly boring, unrewarding and arrogant, actually. My experience of buildings and my enjoyment of buildings was always in places where there was a historic aspect mixed or joined with a modern aspect, and that was all that I still find them the most exciting spaces and buildings, and got into it that way.
Thanks. Daryl?
I'd have to agree with everyone. It's initially, from an architectural background too. What I find most interesting is when you go to a historic place or find a historic building, it's the initial emotive response that you have to what that building represents. And so for me, trying to understand where that message is that's created from this historic building is sort of drives me to understand in greater detail what we do, and what I find interesting is how we can all bring that together, not just for my beneficial, but for the public to understand it as well.
Okay. Nikki?
I'm a lawyer by trade, and but very interested in architecture, and so I got a new qualification in that area. But I think it's the aesthetics of the whole heritage area that really interests me, and sort of sustainable environments, protecting landscapes, protecting streetscapes, overall areas and places. And I'm not so interested necessarily in something being old. I really like the excitement of heritage being something that could be 20 years, created 20 years ago. I love modernism. I also love Georgian architecture, and I just think it's such a broad thing, but it's just, to me, about sort of maintaining a great, not only built environment, but just environments that are aesthetically worth protecting,
And Sue?
I actually travelled many, many years ago, and it's really interesting when I actually look back on the photographs I took, it was always of like sort of the older buildings and heritage buildings, and I just find there's some form of history there. You walk into a place and it just has a different feeling, and I just find it fascinating. I find that no two reports are the same. Like, even though you could have 3 houses in a row or terraces, that the history behind each terrace is so different. I just find that all really exciting, and I think it's important to be able to tell the story to the public, to everyone out there.